Hi, I'm Colleen Thomas, and I am the director of But the Sun Came Up and We Were Here. I was invited in 2017 to come to Poland and meet with different artists, curators, presenters, and dream about the possibility of doing an international collaboration in 2019. I was invited by the Adam Mickiewicz Institute to hold an audition and look for dancers that could collaborate with a few dancers from New York City that I've worked with for a while. And I was to look at dancers from Poland and from Ukraine and from Belarus. I knew that I was interested in strong improvisers, performers, strong people who were comfortable talking on stage, and also just open, willing to sort of investigate the questions I was interested in and create together. So I held an audition. I found these amazing dancers that you all are watching tonight, and I went back home and started thinking about what we were going to do. I knew that we were going to use some kind of puppeteering work because that's what Genia did, and I was so interested in it. So we started communicating virtually and, sending videos back and forth and talking about ideas and themes, and trying to figure out a way to do it that would be simple and efficient, but also get across what it is that we wanted to investigate. So Genia and I had already started sort of the creative process before I got back to everybody in Poland. And then when I arrived in Poland, I knew that I wanted to work on ideas around division, ideas around, we had a new president in America, and I was shocked and maybe awoke for the first time around the division in America. Not that the division was new, but just that I was very aware of it and very sort of disturbed, and didn't understand what was really, how we were going to move forward as a country, how we were going to survive, how I was going to be able to talk to family members or friends that had a different belief than I did. And so I knew themes around hopelessness and hope were going to be part of it, and sort of just a dystopian world was sort of seemed to be manifesting in front of me, and I didn't understand how to deal with it. So that's what we do as artists. We deal with it in our work. So I got to Poland, this very privileged North American, and there was a march, and the papers were calling it a Nazi march. There was a lot of people. It was Independence Day in Poland, and there was a lot of people from all over Europe that were pro-Nazi, and they made the news, and it was pretty scary. And so when I got to Lublin, where we were working, I met with the dancers the first day, and instead of talking about America, and we talked about this march first, and then led into politics around the world and politics in our specific countries, and surviving in history, and how we keep creating, and how we connect to people, and how we make it better, and how we try. And so that became what the work was about. We used a lot of contact improvisation, a lot of trying things out together, looking at the difference in composition and improvisation. We had this joke at one point about there's a section where part of it's improvised and part of it is composed, and we had a joke that the Eastern Europeans were the improvisers and the Americans were the composers. You know, the Eastern Europeans were cooler because they were the improvisers. So we worked a lot around, we workshopped the puppet, the paper idea. And when we brought the designer, Rebecca Makis, in, you know, she wanted to build this world. She wanted to even make the ceiling this paper. I think the first movement that we made had to do with our own personal monsters, like what we didn't like about ourselves, or I think we called it personal monsters. So everybody's solos came out of that material. And definitely Daniil and Sam's duet was that material. And they just became like this perfect, distorted couple. And I knew that coming to Poland, I had been working with Dare and Darren, and Dare and I had been talking a lot about, you know, that he was going to be the only person of color in the piece, and how was that going to be coming to Eastern Europe, and have, you know, is the racism as bad as it is in America? And when he arrived, I think we had already put some stuff together. But the piece starts out with him sort of making this world that looks pretty dark, looks pretty dystopian. It's dark on stage, the lighting is dark, the paper is crumpled, he's ripping and sort of trying to make a world out of this very trashy looking space. You know, he's crumpling up paper, creating these puppets, creating these other characters to interact with, and he's doing this while the audience is coming in. And then when the piece starts, this other world is opened up, this door upstage is opened up, and you see this party of, you know, people who have it better, who are, you know, celebrating, who have, you know, just seems like a better world in the other room and in the other space than where you are. So in the process, I started to realize that I wanted to make this other space where people got sucked into, thrown into, fell into, and sort of like how, you know, what do you do when you're thrust into this sort of situation? And really there's nothing you can do. This is what it is. And so there's themes in the work where we divide the space. There's a lot of division. We divide the space with paper. We divide it with different rooms. We divide it with light. We divide it with improvisation and composition. We divide it, and we try to figure out how to come together and how to see what the other side, maybe not see what the other side sees, but understand it in a different way. We talked a lot about how we move through that kind of time, and there's a part in the piece where there's this puppet show, and we used this Buddhist proverb that I had heard in a talk when I was making the work, about wanting to be on the other side, and then a stranger comes and he talks back and says, you already are on the other side of the river. And so we sort of try to have this theme of not being quite right and trying to figure out how to have some kind of hope and how to move forward. And I feel like the piece, although everybody got sucked into or fell into or thrust into the world that wasn't the party, the less desirable world, we figured out a way to have hope by the end of it by lifting up this sort of cloud, and the cloud still feels heavy, but it is at least up, and it's trash, but the way that Rebecca lit it is sort of beautiful, this beautiful sort of changed, destroyed world. So my thoughts on the piece in light of current events are really we're just all worried about Daniil and hope that this is over, like by the time this video, like over yesterday. But the piece is just stronger and became stronger with every performance and every time we experienced it, because of course the world was really crazy then, and it's worse now, and it's there's parts in the piece where Mikołaj has the paper mask on his head and he's talking about gun control in America, and he's talking about how we love our guns, and he was using current events then, and it's so much worse now. It feels so much worse now. And I mean, he was just so brilliant with that monologue that he's talking about the Syrian refugees, but now you think about the people who are coming over in Poland, and all of the friends that are in this piece in Poland are housing people and helping them. And there's just people are trying to just help and trying to connect and trying to just make it through until this is over. And Daniil is there and he's fighting, and because he has to, he can't leave, and because he loves his country. And in the piece, when he picks up the paper and he says, "I love my country," now that means I mean, it was intense then, but now it's just really clear.
I was thinking about the concept of the piece, about this idea that different people are jumping in one space and are trying to live together. And basically, in the beginning, I was like, oh my God, they are so crazy and different individuals here. And how Colleen will do this, that how she will choreograph it and it will work. I was a little bit like, oh my God, it's not possible. But then during the process and during all of these meetings in the kitchen in Lublin and with other time in the rehearsals, it just happened. I think it's so great that we created the space open for everyone, and I don't know, it was just very beautiful. And what I want to say, even during this horrible situation, there is a space, great space, created from people to people. And I found it really similar to what we had in our piece. When I'm going to my parents' house, there are 3 women from Ukraine living there, and my parents just invited them to share the space of their house. And yeah, this is a space where they are living together, they are sharing their skills, and they are supporting each other. And I think this is much more strong than any other stuff which is happening around now.
Thank you so much, actually, that you want to talk about this project, because that was a very important project for me too. And I want to share one moment, our process, which was very important for me, which opened a lot of interesting things for me. So in our performance, we have this moment when our bodies, we lean, we bend our body like this, and we're supposed to sit like this maybe like 3 minutes. And I always did it, and I didn't understand what it's mean. Okay, I can bend my body and I will stay like this, but what it's mean for me. And one day I was walking, after a rehearsal, I just walking around at night, and I saw a homeless person who slept like this. So his eyes was closed and he was just almost slept like this. So not horizontal position, not vertical, he was this position. So that's how I feel right now, our time. We are not straight, we're not like, not that dead, but between. So that's kind of diagonal position of not safe place. It's really, really, time is so hard to feel it and feel the straight, like straight position and straight. So that's what I learned about from this project. And right now I feel like what we did that time, it was 2019, this position, right? So I feel like right now that's the time of this position, diagonal. Also, that's one of the most interesting part for me also, when we had this piece of paper, which is going straight from the back to forward stage. Sorry for my English, but yeah. And then we had this moment when we just do this, and we create shapes, and it's work like a puppets. So Daniil, he used this like create Ukraine, create his country. And at that moment, Ukraine was, there was no war. It was 2019, but the feeling of the time, like he felt probably that future, because that conflict exists maybe 200 years between Russia and Ukraine. So people who's living there, they feel it. And not just Ukraine, but Belarus also. I'm from Belarus, and Russia want to actually, because we have our own culture, but very, I would say, very specific small culture, but our culture, and they want to just how to say it, like destroy our countries and make it everything look like Russia, probably, I don't know. So that's also a very important message in this performance. And I feel like this performance is supposed to leave. I wish we can travel and show this work.
In the piece, we talked about the river and the paper and a lot of the sort of hidden metaphors that were going on there. One of the things about the river is that, you see things look so much better on the other side of the river, but from the other perspective, we're already on the other side of the river. And if anything, that kind of thought just more so gives me optimism. I'm feeling positive about hopefully things can get better. Another thing that I'd like to talk about that was really great and integral about making this piece is when we did a lot of contact improvisation, for generating materials in this work. And the contact improvisation is all about human touch, sharing weight, giving and receiving. And it's such a under hidden message about the human connections and how it's so important, even across all the borders that we live in, that we can still make these connections. The group that we had was a very, very strong individual performers and individual personalities that came together really beautifully. Another thing I would like to say, we made this piece in 2019, and that was right before COVID hit. So the world has totally changed dramatically. I mean, we wear a mask all the time. We try to stay 6 feet away from each other. So it's just very interesting to know, like, people's comfortability about being close with each other and making contact and feeling the sensation and feeling each other. I really feel like, if anything, that sort of sensation and desire has been heightened, and I just feel optimistic. It's the only way I can feel right now. I don't want to feel negative in light of all the things. I can only think that we can only get better from here, and I just hope that's true.
Hi, hello, here is Mikołaj. I'm talking to you from Poland, actually specific from Lublin, from the place of origin of this performance. I'm very happy that after so many years, this piece is still alive. First of all, Daniel wouldn't be physically with us because he can't leave his country. So this is the big change. Also, Lublin has changed. It's like totally, maybe not totally, but it's a different city now than on that time because of all the refugees and because of that it's so close to the border with Ukraine and with Belarus, what is important. So I think this is also a big topic. What has have been changed? The relationship between countries has changed. And I think this is the topic that then in Europe it wasn't a topic, now it is. I had in the piece the story about the refugee that lost his son in one of the refugee camp, who had blue jeans and yellow t-shirt. Blue jeans and yellow t-shirt, I remember this sentence from the piece. And because on that time it was a topic on the news. But in my head it was somewhere there. It was still important to me and it touched me. But now it's totally different story because in my home I had a mother and daughter from Ukraine for 4 months. They were running from war and they were living in my home. So this is totally different. The other thing is I remember Daniel's story when he took the paper, smash it and say, "This is my country."
This is my country. There are a lot of beautiful forests here, mountains. There are beautiful people live there.
Now, when the Ukraine, they are heroes, and now it's resonate totally different, this sentence with this paper in his hand.
I didn't realize until now how political this piece was. And now I see it. And I wanted to talk especially about one part. I have this solo with the screaming gesture. And now I can feel it, how this scream and this piece, which is silenced and which is really desperate, and it takes some time, like nobody can hear it and nobody can see it, and actually nobody can help, because I feel like I'm invisible in this moment. Like it's this crying for help, but I cannot be noticed because so many other things are going on around us. So I think this is how it connects with the world right now. Like, can we still hear this crying for help, or are we already so used to it so we don't bother?
I love the idea that the whole thing, the whole piece was made from the paper. So the puppets, the selling, the whole set was made from the paper, and somehow we were made out of the paper too. So for me, it's like a metaphorical option of like it all is one, just not just intellectual, but to feel the option that you can be connected with another person. So as you can feel its happiness and love, you can also feel their pain, their desires, their hatred, and many other things. So that's what have changed for me, I think. I don't know what's possible right now for more collaboration, because I feel that we are in the point where there are some geopolitical emotions according to the situation. Because, for example, now in Poland, we are a little bit in fear that we would be, as a nation, as a country, the next one after the Ukraine. So that's why many of the Polish people are like, go fight, kill them. It's like quite simple. But for example, I don't know, but maybe in France or in Spain, it's not so, the ideas and the thoughts that are spoken loud are not so based on fear.
To me, this piece is really about, it's about many things, but one of them that really strikes me is perspective and perception. So that's, of self and of others, and something we talked a lot about, which was the other. So when you sort of otherize and separate yourself from members of the global community, let's say that, because we see obviously, nationalistic conflicts, and then we also see, even within our own country, sort of communities within one country having conflict or perpetrating violence against one another. So when I think about that aspect of it in the piece, there's some ways that comes up. It's that you only see a little glimpse of the piece peeking through the door. What is that perspective that you have? How does that differ from the perspective that we have as a dancer? What are you missing? What are you not getting? And then when it does spill into the space, how does your perception change of our world, of what you know of our world? So that comes up for me a lot. And then, for myself and some of the dancing in that work, I see that as well. So when I think about the duet that Daniel and I made in particular, my perception of it has shifted so much. And that's just personal, but I think also one of the really interesting things that happened in making the work was that we created these two solos, and when we put them next to each other, it changed the meeting so dramatically. And then again, for me, with what that was about when I was making it, I was really sort of investigating the grotesque, and for me, it was somewhat internally. So my own darkness, spots of darkness, or the grotesque ways that I can be or have been, or that I may think about myself. You can see that in the facial expressions and in some of the movement. And I remember seeing Daniel perform his for the first time, and I felt his strength and his power and his sort of his commitment. And it was also very personal to him, but I don't think I knew exactly what it was about. He says, my country. And now, to see that and think about that today, it's pretty mind-blowing, because he's literally living in a war zone. And Daniel and I have gone on to have these sort of parallel lives that are completely different. You know, he and I each have newborn babies. So I had a baby a few months ago, and so did he. So we've become parents for the first time. You know, after having this beautiful duet together, now we're each having a very beautiful experience. But at the same time, he's living in a war zone, and I, you know, I'm choosing what color my countertops should be, you know, before I move into my new house. And it's really hard for me to wrap my mind around what he's going through and how we got here.
Hello, my name is Daniel Melikian. I'm from Ukraine. Now I'm placed close to Kyiv. You can see behind my back is the baby house. It's the place where new life is going into the earth. But for now you can see the Russian freedom for Ukraine. So especially me, I knew it from the first war activity in 2013. I was in Dnipro at that moment, and it was the beginning of this huge war. Nobody of us knew that these actions could come such a close, because it's just 20 kilometers to the Kyiv, to the capital of Ukraine, and they destroyed every city, every peaceful places. They killing people, huge amount of people. They continue to kill it. During the day we have 7-10 alarms, and you never know which this rocket bombed your family, yourself, your neighbor. So this is reality which we have now, almost more than 2 months. So the life is continue somehow, but this is nightmare, even if sun is still rising and we keep going. There are huge problems with economy, with the humanitarian catastrophe in many cities of my country. But Ukrainians continue to fight. They have strong feeling of victory, and we will get this victory. And thanks for support from the whole world. I really see now the real face of the Russian government and Russians with the empty heads of their propaganda, which is not telling the truth about, because they could say that this is Ukrainians did it. You can see by your eyes. You can feel this. So this is my perspective of what's going on in Ukraine. Even now could be alarm, and we should run somewhere. So we have this feeling, and we don't know when it will finish, unfortunately. I hope, and we trust, and we continue to fight. The strongest people of Ukraine, they showing to the whole world how we could resist, how we could support each other. So this is the situation. Thanks you for watching.